that I've actually hit record, what is it about the goth that enrages you so? Is it just the American goth, or is there like is it goth internationally?
So I can only speak to my, my exposure to American goths. I don't know anything about international goths, but it's when they say things like, "I feel the pain of the world," and they know the darkness. Meanwhile, they live with their mom, borrow the van whenever they need to go pick up their Maybelline to put on their eyeliner. Spoiled little white kids. Go fuck yourself.
So funny story is I'm not wearing any today, but I've started wearing nail polish. My wife likes it on me, and so I've started wearing it. Yeah. And my cool brother,
right?
I told Stephanie, I said, if anybody understands, he will. He was a punker. He made it real clear when she brought that up to him that punkers don't wear nail polish. It's goths that wear nail
absolutely.
polish.
Yeah. I'm gonna wait a minute. And here's the I want to make sure I make this clear. It's not the makeup and nail polish that makes a goth. It's the message that makes the goth. Oh, yeah. So, if you're a kid and you want to wear weird shit on your face, more power to you. But if you wear weird shit on your face and then say things like, "I feel the pain of the world in my body," and I'm in touch with the darkness and loneliness, go fuck yourself sideways.
The emo era was hard for you, wasn't it?
Oh man, that's why
it's really weird because
give me all the thrash metal from the fuckers.
I absolutely loved emo metal when it was out.
I liked like 4 bands.
What is it? So who would fall into that category?
Hawthorne Heights.
My Chemical Romance.
Yeah, MCR. Which MCR actually, I like MCR. So they're just kind of screamo.
I can't say I love, but there were a handful of bands that I really dug. 3 Days Grace.
I wouldn't really call them emo. They were just like radio rock. But you had like Under Oath and stuff like that. Our conversations take really weird turns.
I don't know who any of these bands.
That does not surprise me at all.
I can't speak.
So you never went to Edge Fest because these are all bands
right, exactly,
that would have been at Edge Fest.
No, I never. Edge Fest was not my bag.
Oh well.
They had a few good.
I went to about 4 of them. They were pretty good.
I remember hearing that there'd be like 1 or 2 that appealed to me.
Was there one
year. There would be like 1 or 2 that would appeal to me, and the rest of them be like, I don't know who these people
Sevenfold was there one year.
Yeah.
Stone Sour.
Yeah.
Headlined. It was usually the headliners were the big names.
Yeah.
I would always go watch the side stage bands or the opener bands because they're usually like as far as headliners go. I think I saw Rob Zombie play one time, and I think Godsmack was the
Godsmack was the Rob Zombie played before Godsmack. Yeah, we were both at that one, and we didn't even know
we didn't know each other. Yeah, and then I left.
We left for Godsmack too. Like we watched like one song. And then I looked at Zane.
You
realize every other song they're going to play is going to sound exactly the same. And he goes, I'm pretty tired.
Yeah. Man, our conversations took some weird turns. That was not at all how I planned on opening the show, but it works. It works so well. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Southern Fried Geekery Podcast. My name, as always, is Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Matt Trogdon.
And I'm Craig Lance. What would happen if Caleb's name was something different?
Oh, it wouldn't be as
always.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that can be changed any day now.
It's true. With $20, you can go up to the thing and make it happen. I like my name, though. I worked hard for it. You know how
he was born.
I was about to say, not me.
No, hey, my name came with a hyphen. So,
that's right. You did add a hyphen name.
So, here's the deal with that. I married way better than I should have. Do you realize how hard it's been to be just a piece of shit like me, married to an angel, and not fuck that up? Like it's effort.
I love Roger, right?
Yeah.
I love Roger. It drives me nuts every time you say that.
Oh, it's true.
Give yourself more credit.
It's 100% true. He's way better than I deserve.
Give yourself more credit than that.
I have to say that is a healthy outlook on a relationship to think that you're married up or
I don't. No, I make no qualms about it. Like I married way up, way better than I deserve, and I have to put effort to make sure that he doesn't upgrade because he could. The dude, especially now that he's like losing some weight, getting fit and trim, could upgrade easily. Like I'm holding on to that with both hands. I'm not going to tell you what else I'm doing with those hands.
What's the matter with fat people?
Nothing. I find them. I
I mean,
I've betted a number of healthy men. This is episode 228 of the Southern Fried Geary podcast. As you can tell, we're all in good spirits.
You never know where our conversations are going
at all, man. Tangents out the wazoo. But we're extra happy because this is the first time in several weeks that we've all been together at the table. Craig had some stuff going on, I think, last weekend that you weren't able to be here. Weekend before that, I was deep in finals mode / dealing with a grandmother who passed away.
Speaking of bad heavy metal, remember that song "Down with the Sickness"?
I do.
That was me last weekend.
I
was down with the sickness.
Unfortunately, now I remember that song.
Indeed. But no, we're back. We're back at the same table. It is great to actually see you guys live and in person. It does my heart good. And I cannot wait to dive into the comics because that's what we are. We are a little podcast that comes out every week. We talk about the stuff we've read, that we've enjoyed, that we've found merit in, even if we don't really love what we've read. When we talk about it, it's because we found something worth talking about. We're not a podcast that's going to sit back and trash something just for the sake of trashing it.
I fully intend to trash one of my books.
It all changes today, apparently.
Oh boy, here we go.
Not fully.
Welcome to Thunderdome, kids. But we try to have a 50-50 rule. So let's get into it, guys. Let's talk about some of the stuff that we have read. And then we'll get into some other conversations about more recent things that have happened here in a bit. So, Craig, why don't you start us off? Tell us what you read this week. Drop a short stack on us.
Yeah, so first of all, I do want to say it's good being here with you guys and getting a couple of laughs in. Today's a very, very hard day for me with it being Mother's Day and just having lost my mom.
I can imagine.
So, it's really good being here. So the first book on my short stack is Bloodstained Teeth. Mm-hmm. Christian Ward, Patrick Reynolds, Heather Moore, Hassan Atsmani, and Allahu. Or maybe it's Atsmani Allahu.
Atsmani Allahu.
So I know you talked about this last week.
I did.
For me, this book absolutely sold me with the art. Mm-hmm. Absolutely stunning artwork in it. If you liked Blade, the first Blade movie, you'll like this book. Mm-hmm. It's got a lot of the same vibes. So I'm not going to go too deep into it because you already spoke about it, but it was a wonderful book.
Well, I'm curious about your opinion on that, though, because for me, one of the strong points was the color palette that they used in that.
Yeah.
Like that sold the hell out of me.
All of the art, whether the color, the line work, I mean, the whole book, the story, the art, the colors, it was all just, it vibed really, really well with me. So, speaking of a book that the art did not vibe really, really well with me, Amazing Spider-Man #1, Zeb Wells, John Romita Jr., Scott Hanna, and Marcio Menez. I'm not sure. Sorry if I said your name wrong. So, story, fine. Mm-hmm. It's a good enough Spider-Man story. He's back to people hating Peter, typical Peter Parker story. He's lost everything. Bill collectors are after him. John Romita Jr. has a style that needs to stay off of mainstream comic books, and he can go do his own independent comics because nothing he does anymore attracts me to classic characters. And that's where I'll leave that at. Did either of you guys read that book?
I haven't, no. But I mean, I've said this before, though. I'm like, I love JR's older stuff. I just haven't really vibed on anything he's done in the past 5 years. Since
he did Kick-Ass, everything's taken that kind of blocky face look to it, and there's more than one or two cringe panels in that book because of that. That's not to say it's bad. It's just his style, and it's something I don't like. It just doesn't jive with me for comics. Towards the end, there's a panel with Mary Jane in it that was like, ooh. Okay, so my third book is Ghost Cage #2. Mm-hmm. Nick Dragata and Caleb Golnier. This book we talked about pretty in depth on the first issue. You and I both dug it. Did you read the second issue yet?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Yeah, it just continues the same path. They're working their way through the different forms of energy and wind. actually goes by the name of Quixote, which is amazing, and helps them a little bit. And turns out that the terrorist is the main guy, like I thought, is actually the guy running the power plant.
Right.
The main bad guy owns the power plant and is trying to introduce a new form of power to control the world. And his daughter is trying to stop them because she doesn't want there's one more issue in this. It's in your face type stuff, but it's still fun.
I like it conceptually, but I felt like, especially with this second issue, I feel like this is a 6 issue that they're cramming into 3 issues.
Oh, there's no doubt.
It gets a little convoluted. And so I had some struggle. Like I struggled with, really latching on to the pacing of everything. But I still think
it is very fast paced because they are doing it in a 3-issue book. So.
Yep. Well, what you got for us this week, Matt? What did you read? Oh, I see something. I see something that I like.
Marvel's Maestro, World War M. This is number 3 by Peter David, Herman Peralta, and Jesus Bertov. Man, I love this. I've loved this whole Maestro run. And this one, man, Maestro is just full on evil. I mean, the last issue when he confronts Submariner in Pacifica, and says, "It's like, I hear you've got a wife and child. I can't wait to kill them."
Yeah,
dude.
I've never heard anybody call him Mariner before.
Yeah, that's what his friends call him. Also on my short stack, this is from Free Comic Book Day, best of 2000 AD.
Okay. I got it, but I haven't had a chance to read it yet. So
this is cool. The first story in here is a Judge Dredd story written by Al Ewing. Artist is V.V. Glass and letterer is Colin Bell. I knew Al Ewing had written some Judge Dredd. I've never been able to get my hands on it, so this was cool to read. Nice. You're really going to like this one. I'm not going to spoil it for you. Yeah, you're really going to like this Judge Dredd story. And then there's some old stories they pulled out of here. Pat Mills, Kevin O'Neill's Nemesis the Warlock, which I really like, and then a few others. There's a really strange one called Super Bean by John Wagner and Mike McMahon.
Super Bean?
Super Bean.
Nice.
It's bizarre, hilarious, completely comedic take on...
So is it a bean that's superpowered?
That's
amazing.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And what it's poking fun at is hilarious to me. So this was cool, man.
Yeah,
Every one of these stories is great.
That's great.
And
it's always fun when you get a Free Comic Book Day book that actually resonates with you and hits on stuff. And isn't just a preview for something coming up.
Right.
The last 2 stories are from creators I'm not familiar with, but the last one is about flat earthers.
Oh my God.
I'm telling you.
I cannot wait till I read this.
You got to read this. This is great.
So what happened is I was in a rush when I left the comic book store yesterday and accidentally left my Free Comic Book Day books at the store in my box. I meant to grab them before I left, so I didn't get to read any of them this morning.
I'm a little... Oh, you still have one left. I will reserve comment. I'm sorry.
So I got one from last year's Free Comic Book Day.
That looked familiar.
Did y'all read this one?
I did not.
Interceptor? Yeah, this is the Donnie Cates and Dylan Burnett story. This one is about, sometime in the future... vampires infest the earth. The surviving humans are being overtaken. They leave Earth, nuke the planet, and then...
Oh, I did read that.
Okay,
yeah. I guess I just read there was a trade, or like the first story came out in like a small trade or something.
I don't know.
As far as this was, I was going to say. So this is from last year, like Matt mentioned. I don't think anything ever came of this
other
that
than
I know
just
of.
that story.
I think that might have been it. That's the only thing, because I love Vault. I'm pretty heavily steeped in Vault and try to grab most of what they put out.
Once you said the story, I remembered it.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything come of this, and I'm curious if anybody knows if they would.
Let us know if you know
to where
because I would love to get more of this Interceptor.
The cover art hilarious to me is cutting a wheelie on a what's called a tick,
right?
It's a vampire-ish creature, but it's just mutilating the guy's face with the front wheel of a motorcycle.
a very Akira style motorcycle. kind of futuristic look to it. No, dude, and
Tron.
I wanted more of this because it is a very fun concept. So, well, I'm a little bit jealous of you guys because I did not get to go have fun at New Comic Book Day yesterday.
Free comic book day.
Yeah, free comic book day. Yeah. Wanted to have been kind of looking forward to it because I know I've missed the quote unquote festivities at our shop over the last 3 years essentially. But I got put on a case after my final ended Wednesday and got to work. Took Wednesday off and got back to work on Thursday. And my boss was just like, "Hey, no more finals." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Hey, yeah. So you're completely done." I was like, "I know. I cannot wait. I get to relax this weekend." He's like, "Hey, a trial starts Monday. Jump in the second chair with us." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I spent yesterday kind of getting ready for that. But I did get to read some comics yesterday morning. But after I talk about these, I do want to hear from you guys just kind of how free comic book day at the shop was because like I said, I missed it. I'm jealous I didn't get to go. And by the way, it's been awesome seeing people post their hauls from around the country. Like our friends, Bill from up in Jersey, he posted his. We've been seeing people show us stuff from everywhere where they listen to our show, and that's just rad. Like because it's not just the books that they put out for free because they always have specials and sales and stuff like that. So just watching folks get fun swag is nice.
Yeah.
In my reading yesterday. I grabbed, speaking of Donny Cates, good segue, Thor number 24, unless you go by legacy numbering, in which this is issue 750. This is, in part, I should say, written by Donny Cates, Nick Klein, and Matt Wilson, who are the...
Almost made my short list. Also.
Yeah, they're the... it was so good. But they're the creative team on the ongoing Thor series right now. But the cool thing about this is an oversized issue that presents itself as basically Odin's funeral. So again, I should have said earlier spoilers, but I mean, you listen to the show, you know how this goes. Something's happened with Odin. He's gone. I can't really say too much of what happens because this book actually throws a twist in it. But they are saying their goodbyes to him, and in the midst of that, you get all of these really cool stories. Not written by that main group, but just written by a ton of people who have been influential in Thor over the years, forever. I mean, it starts off with giving you a Beta Ray Bill story by Walt Simonson with Laura Martin, the great Laura Martin, doing the colors on that. You get Jason Aaron, you get a few more, and you get a great Loki story that I just thought was fantastic.
I enjoyed the Walter Simonson one.
Yeah, all of them. All of them. Was the Walter Simonson new? That's what I don't know. So
I believe it was. It wasn't one I was familiar with. If it was a republished story,
all the rest of the stories I absolutely knew were new books or were new stories. But the Walt Simonson, it was in Walt style, so he has that classic Walt style. So it's really hard to tell. But,
and it focuses on Beta Ray Bill, which is I know a big deal for some of our friends and listeners,
aka Jerry
and
Mike, who has a giant Beta Ray Bill tattoo that he will gladly show you. But among the other ones, you had Al Ewing, Lee Garbett, Dan Jurgens, Straczynski, and Oliver Copiel did stuff in this too, so that was fun.
Oliver Copiel, who I used to despise but now don't.
See, you've grown to love.
Used to despise?
Oh, Craig did not like his art at all. Not at all.
But now I don't. See, I grew as a person, and he grew as an artist.
The second book on my short stack comes from Vault, that little company we were just talking about. This is it's a fun little book. This is a new number one. It's called Quests Aside. It's by Brian Shermer, Elena Gogu, Rebecca Nolte did the colors, and World Design did the letters. Craig, if you didn't pick this up,
I did not, so I'm gonna have to get it. Yeah,
it is straight up a D&D style.
When I saw it sitting there, I was like, "What is that?"
Yeah, it is. There is this bar called Quests Aside. In this little bitty town that is it's a waypoint for adventurers and wanderers. It is owned by a guy who has been cursed time and time again. He's immortal. He can't get drunk. He's got lots of stuff. So, and his bar is staffed by these little figures who meet all kinds of your D&D-esque tropes. They all have an attitude. They are visited by the king, and the king, they have a history with him. So if you're into D&D and you want to see a good bard battle, that's really cool. Check it out.
I'm gonna have to pick that book up because, like I said, just even sitting there, I was like, "Huh, what is that? How did I miss that book?"
There are adventuring wanderers with attitudes. There's a giant that steps on people. It's fun. There's an infinitesimal closet So if you have ever been the type of person to want to roll a D20, check this book out because it's just fun. It's lighthearted.
Giants that step on people are always a positive in my book.
Yeah, it's very lighthearted, very comical. If you're a fan of like the Adventure Zone, that podcast or that game or whatever, or all of the above, check Quest Aside out now because it'll laugh. And the third thing is it's about comics. It's not actually a comic though. I bought this a while back and I've been wanting to read it. It is a book. It is actually a biography. I think I mentioned it before, but I'm actually finally getting the chance to dig into it. It is called The Life and Comics of Howard Cruz, Taking Risks in the Service of Truth. This is a biography written by Andrew J. Kuna. If you don't know who Howard Cruz is in my opinion, a legendary cartoonist who has done some amazing works, but he did his work within the LGBTQ realm of comics, has written some just quintessential cartoons, but because of who he was, because of his sexuality, and because of the subject matter of the book, didn't get a lot of attention, didn't get a lot of like the mainstream in the way that artists like Robert E. Crumb did, other people who were dealing with subversive stuff. Like they were not shying away from like the things that rubbed people the wrong way, but they were able to still catch a lot more spotlight. Howard Cruz did not, even though we have a lot of his work, and it's fairly well known, but it's just not as known as it should be. So he's kind of the godfather of queer comics, and so this book kind of just takes a story about this kid who grew up in the South. He's actually from Alabama. He was a preacher's kid who grows up to write these stories about queer relationships, interracial relationships, queer relationships, just all of the above in comics throughout a 50-year,
Interesting.
50 years of his craft and putting his caliber out there. So this is published by Rutgers University Press. So always down to read more stuff like this. And I can't wait to finish it. I'm about halfway through it. So now that I've got some free time, should be done with it this week. I'm excited. All right. Well, so I want to hear about Free Comic Book Day at our local shop. Our local shop being Kapow Comics over in Sherwood, Arkansas. That's where we all met. That's how we got to know each other. Part and parcel of how we got to know each other. It's what brought us together, and it was kind of the foundation of this little podcast. So I know you both got to step by. What was it like? How was the shop doing?
It was busy all day long, just kind of a steady stream of people. One thing he usually does to prevent a line from forming is he doesn't tell people when he's opening.
Yeah.
He just kind of opens because he doesn't want people lined up. So once he opens the door, he just opens the door, and then it becomes a steady stream all day long.
Cool.
So he had a pretty good sale going on. They had a pretty good sale going on, 20% off pretty much everything in the store. He had some of his high-end books out, which he was not putting a discount on, but there were some really nice first appearance books and things like that were out. First appearance of Usagi Yojimbo and
oh, really?
Doctor Strange. And
was that in a Turtles book?
No, it was Abedetto or something like that. I can't ever say the name of it. It was its own thing, but it was a story in that book. It was like an anthology book, if I remember correctly. So he had some of that out. Like I said, just a good fun day. It's always fun to kind of just get to go hang out for no reason at the store for 4 or 5 hours, just other than just helping. And, I got stationed at the dollar books, just putting little blue X's so people knew they were dollar books when they went to check out, so there was no confusion. Usually it's easy to tell, but when you have that many people coming through the store,
it gets cracked because there are a lot of people there. I think Matt has told us at least before that this is basically like Black Friday for him.
Yeah, it's his biggest day of the year. Yeah. He definitely, I would say, rough estimate, a couple thousand people came through the store yesterday.
Yeah, he pays his rent for the year there.
Yeah.
On that day.
So,
now, did you get any back issues? Did you? Pick
I
up
did not
anything?
get any back issues, but I did buy some Thundercats action figures.
Oh, very cool!
So,
Nice.
Yeah, he just came across about 8 of them. The 2 main ones that were in there were Lion-O and Mumra, so I'm pretty happy to have obtained those for my. I have no idea where I'm going to put them at this point because my office is just crammed, packed full of stuff. But but I did buy them, so nice. I got that. Got my free comics. I did pick up one of the free comics had a. I've not seen this before, but they did variants for one of the free comics. So I picked up one of those as well.
Matt, what about you? Did you?
I didn't make it for Free Comic Book Day.
Oh, okay. I thought you did.
No, I was, I unfortunately couldn't make it.
Okay, so I thought you, because you were talking about it that you had. That's my bad. Were you just able to get it a little bit sneaky?
It helps when you know the owner of the store.
Yeah. I had the inside.
And he knows that you have a podcast where you're going to talk about stuff.
Friendly nepotism. Well, nice. Well, so the thing about the shop too, I know you said that they didn't discount any like your key issues and stuff though, but
the key issues except for those 6, which were we're talking about $4,000 or $5,000 comic books to $12,000. So.
Well, what I was going to say though is he prices his stuff fairly well to begin with,
except for the ones that he doesn't want to sell, like those 5 comic books.
If you go in there on any given Sunday though, you can usually catch a deal on a quote unquote key issue. So. And he has a pretty good selection of those. So
he does.
Just kind of want to take this opportunity. If you're in Central Arkansas and if you're looking for a place to go, maybe you're traveling through Central Arkansas, do go check out Kapow Comics. They are as aggravating as Matt Dykes can be. We all want to shake him a little bit, but we do love him. So go check his shop out. Give him some business. It's good stuff.
He's been on his better behavior lately. So
just shake our fingers at him a few times. He's a curmudgeonly little ginger man. So. But we all got to while we were there, while we were at the shop at one point in time this past Wednesday, we got to pick up a new comic, something that just came out this week. Now, this is a book that actually I think debuted. The first look I got at it was last Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah, I spoke about this last year after Free Comic Book Day.
Because I think the art just kind of like grabbed you by the collar and shook you a little bit. But so it's been a year, and now we finally, I think that they actually debuted this on the Substack, their Substack channel. And so some people have gotten to see this before, but like most things, we knew this was going to come out because this is where they make their money. And so we'll quit burying the lead here. We got our hands on Twig #1 by Scotty Young, Kyle Stram, John Francois Bellew, and Nate Picos doing the letters. This book has been touted by some people as a Bone-esque adventure story. People who have got to see more of it. It is, by all appearances, very much an all-ages adventure story featuring this cute and cuddly little figure named Twig who lives in a magical land where all kinds of weirdness and oddness and stuff happens. And before we get into the innards of the book, kind of what makes it work and talk about the plot and everything, I want to say 2 things. Number one, spoilers, so you can't get mad at us because I've already said that word at least twice now. But I want to know just kind of generally how this book treated you two. How did you enjoy this, or did you not enjoy this?
I love this book.
Okay.
But it's right up my alley, an adventure book. And I would have bought it because of the creative team alone. All 4 of these are people that I would pick up stuff they worked on alone, let alone together. The art is just freaking stunning in this book. The colors are stunning. Everything about it for me is a yes.
Yeah, it looked good. I mean, it's obviously a setup issue. It's got it feels like it's going to be an epic long tale. Mm-hmm. I don't know if has it been announced as being a certain number of issues?
I don't know that there's a like a mini or a maxi series number on it or anything.
I know with Middle West went 18 issues. So I listened to a lot of podcasts that Scotty has been on. I've heard him talk about this book. I don't think he's set a. I've heard him say he knows how it ends, as most writers do before they start writing. I haven't heard a set number of issues though, so I don't know. So I would imagine you're at least going to get 12 to 18 issues of this. I'm trying to remember how much how many issues I Hate Fairyland went for. I think
about the same, 18 to 24, somewhere in there.
So that's kind of his zone that he tends to work in.
Here's my thing on fantasy and this sort of story, quest stories. People always want to make epics. Mm-hmm. Tell the story you have to tell and get out.
Yeah,
I think that so many people want. And I don't get the impression that he's going to overdo it, because I've read too much of Scotty Young's stuff to know that he tends to not do that. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I think that's a thing that happens sometimes.
I think people try to stretch it out longer than it needs to be. But I mean, I love Scotty.
Fantasy novels.
I love Scotty, and Scotty's brilliant at coming up with stories. So I'm down for whatever he decides to do.
Yeah.
He's fairly well balanced in his creativity and his process, though. So he's somebody that I definitely trust to know the scale of what he's doing. Matt, so now this didn't particularly have a whole lot of like blood, gore, and violence, which I know you're prone to.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah, what did
I looked at the cover. I was like, "Oh man, somebody's going to be bleeding on this."
Yep.
I interpreted that wrong.
Very, very cute little critter.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a slug monster friend.
Yeah, I thought that
called Splat.
I thought that was a blood-sucking mutated leech.
We don't know that it's not. To be fair,
yeah,
we don't know that it's not.
Maybe that's the twist.
So. I'm much in the same boat as Craig. I really, really, really enjoyed this. I am a fan, a longtime Scotty Young fan. I've been latched onto that dude since Oz. Honestly, I love most of his creator-owned stuff more than
Caleb Stutter. I don't know that that's ever happened before.
Well, what I was going to say is I was trying to way to say this without sounding like I was poo-pooing on something, because I'm not. I love his creator-owned stuff more than I love his Marvel work. For instance, like he's done the X-Babies and he Rocket Raccoon and everything else, but it's stuff like this. It's stuff like I Hate Fairyland.
I think that's a fair thing to say, and that's not dumping on his other stuff. There's a lot of creators that I prefer their creator-owned stuff more than their
but you know how the internet is. I say that, and all of a sudden somebody comes on there. Well, Caleb said he hates the X-Babies.
You are way overestimating our influence.
I'm trying to make it sound better. I'm touting us. So, but also. Huge fan of Kyle Stram. I became familiarized with Kyle's work. I think, Craig, you had somewhat of a similar experience on Spread, that book that he did with our friend Justin Jordan.
Which is why I was expecting more blood in this one.
Well, and then he did the book with Cullen Bunn. So we've always seen him, Kyle do horror stories. We've always seen him do these really graphic, really just, he does nasty really, really, really well. And this is more cute. I don't know how else to put it. Like, this is more fuzzy little critters. It's almost got a
Alice in Wonderland vibe.
Yeah, very, very much.
That's where I would put it. There's some twisted stuff going on, but it's very cutesy.
Mm-hmm. With these little like fuzzy creatures, that just make their way through the forest.
Reminds me of the White Rabbit. I'm late.
Well, and literally goes down a hole.
Yep.
So that's a good place to kind of start talking about the plot. So obviously it's early morning in this little land that these folks live in, and we know that because, well, I would say obvious because there is a little bird perched on a limb of some sort, and he is cracooing or something. It's like a chicken, like a rooster letting you know the sun's coming up. And our friend Twig, he awakes, he stretches, he yawns, he snap, crackles, and pops, and he's a cute little blue fuzzy creature, just being adorable. And then he realizes, oh no, he's late, and today is his first day on the job. And so he gets up, he walks over to a table, and there's this little slug creature named Splat that's just chilling and just hanging out. He was eating some berries or something, and Twig is just like, well, why didn't you wake me up? And he's like, well, was I supposed to wake you up? He's like, yes, we literally had this conversation yesterday. I told you today's important. starting my new job. I can't oversleep. He's like, yeah, no, I remember that, but you didn't tell me to wake you up. So just, very sarcastic little set off to the tone of the book, which you might expect from Scotty. And so he picks up Splat, he throws him on his little backpack, and they get on their merry way. And they're trying to get to the quote-unquote job that he has. And in order to get there, he has to literally go in through the mouth of a mountain. So they come to this ledge, right? There's this ledge overlooking a valley, and there is a giant mountain. But the mountain's, it's got a face. Like this, in this world, the mountain can speak. It's got a face and a mouth, and it's got these very humanoid-esque features on it. And so the mountain's name is Mount Guffin. And he, kind of like MacGuffin, which I thought was funny. But he goes and he's like, I'm so sorry I'm late, Mount Guffin, you got to forgive me. And he's like, dude, this is your first day on this new job. And what this new job is, it's called the Placeling. Essentially, his duties are going to be to take take, without getting too much into it, to take things that are found in the mountain that have mystical potential or have very, very important potential, and he is supposed to take it, travel to a faraway land to somebody who is essentially a cartographer. He is a person who studies the unknown, makes maps, looks at the ways to understand the world, and he will decipher these messages or whatever. So he's an errand boy, basically. He's like a go-between. But in this land, it's almost a familial position because his father had that before him, and it's a very, very important position. It's very, very necessary to keep these things going and running like clockwork. Time is literally of the essence. But, Twig they take a little bit of pity on Twig. It is his first day. He's not completely messed everything up. He's just a little bit late. So they let him go ahead and cross and start his day, and he goes into the mouth of the mountain, all the while Splat's just like, hey, you realize we're walking on this dude's giant tongue right now, about to go in his face. Like, what happens if he chokes and swallows us and we all die? And Twig's like, dude, I don't want to think about this right now. And so they get inside the mountain. Mountain Guffin closes his mouth. It gets really dark, and he's like, oh, I can't see. Well, Splat luckily comes equipped with a nightlight, so sets it up and glows just in time for Twig to fall down a hole. And Twig bounces down and bebops through the hole, ping-pongs around, and finally he lands. And where he lands is deep in this little cave where all of these creatures they look a lot like Twig, except they are not fuzzy wuzzies. They are kind of salamander-y looking. They don't have fur. They just have something that looks akin to scales, but they're rock creatures. Or they're the rock versions of them. And they're mining. They're mining in these tunnels. For what we really don't know, but they've got an entire setup that it's a great system, and they're very nice. They direct him to where he's supposed to go, and again he gets to the boss, I guess his foreman, and gets a tongue lashing again for being late. But look, they don't really have time to focus on these things because they found something. They've pulled a red gem with a spiral that would make Donnie Cates jealous. Like, I'm half expecting Noel to pop up in the story. But there's a red gem with a little spiral on it trapped in a cage, or in a treasure box that he's like, you have to get this to where it goes. And we don't know what it is. We just find them, but you have to take it to the Pathsayer, who is this kind of cartographer person that I've told you about. And it's a little bit of a journey, so we get to see a lot of the texture of this world as Kyle Stram walks us on the way to the Pathsayer. You get to kind of see a lot of the flora and the fauna, and in a Scotty Young book especially, whether you've read Fairyland or Middle West, you know that the worlds that he creates are just chock full of texture. They are broad and vibrant, and there's more than meets the eye. He opens you up to the fact that this really is a well-developed and full planet, a full place that these characters live in, which is important for a Scotty Young story because, he can always come back to it later after he finishes his book. But, they walk through lush green forests. There's oceans. There, little purple rivers with little squishmallow-looking things that are flopping in and out of it. There's rainy, crepid swamp things with blue and green tentacles reaching out of them. It's just amazing. Like, it really is beautifully laid out. And then they come to the Pathsayer's cartogratory, which is, it looks a little bit like an astronomy lab. You got the big roof that opens up where he can stare at a telescope at the sky. Everything's like lush and green and kind of moldy, and he's excited about being there. So they go and he knocks on the door and he's like, okay, just a little bit late. He should still be expecting me though. Let me knock and get this party started. But nobody answers. And that's strange because the cartographers, the Pathsayer's always on his shit, right? Like why is this man not answering? And so they knock again, and finally our little slug buddy is just like Splash, just like, well, here, let me pick the lock. I've got tentacles. Let's use these things. So he's like, maybe he's in the shower, maybe he's scrubbing his naughty places, and we're gonna go figure out. We'll just surprise him. So they do. They get in and knock the door, but the lights are off and the kitchen's a mess and everything's strewn about. It's just strange looking. All the candles are blown out. And he's just like, well, maybe he had something to do. I mean, I was like 30 minutes to an hour late. Maybe he just left. And, very, tongue-in-cheek. Splat's like, I mean, he could be dead. Except maybe that's not so tongue-in-cheek. They round the corner, and the Pathsayer, or what's left of him, a little skeleton with plants poking out of him, is in fact deceased.
He's been dead for a minute.
He is dead and gone. He is just a skull and bones at that point. And so what do they do from here? It's very important that they get this gem in the right hands. They have to know what it means. Like, fate depends on it. And that is the launch pad for what promises to be a very, I mean this both literally and figuratively, a very colorful adventure for our little Twig buddy. There are some back matter in this. You get to see some of the things that fans have made, that little claymation figure of Twig, literally in a nutshell. You get to see some art from the next issue coming up. Again, you're seeing this vibrant world. Interesting to me is there's a city in the background. So we're going to get to see some of the kind of metropolitan areas in this world that they live in. And he really is taking you through all kinds of the landscape of this world as they take this gem and try to figure out what to do with it, where to place it, and run into some danger there. So I love what I've read so far. I'm very excited about it. Normally with a story, I'll say, this was cool, but the writing was there for me. The writing was the strong point. Or I'll say, the story was great, but the art and the colors were what I really, the book we read last week, the colors are what brought me in and made me stay. Can't say that with this book. It is a complete combination here that really drew me in personally.
That's what happens when you get a great creative team together.
It is just fantastic.
You get a greatly put together book.
Yeah. So I'm gonna let you guys take it over a little bit. Y'all talk and go through it and tell me what some of your strong points were. How you felt about it.
I'm not prepared for this. Are you? No. No. There's some great moments in this book. Just funny Scotty Young type things. When he's in the mountain to collect the item that he's going to take. We don't know what it is yet. It's locked in a box. And they don't open the box traditionally. The foreman hits it with a stick and it pops open. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of one of those little Scotty Young moments. And then when they're leaving the mountain, they leave it from the opposite end from which they entered.
Yeah.
And Splat won't quit talking about how the fact that they were just pooped out of the mountain. If they were eaten by the mountain, they're obviously being pooped out by the mountain. And Twig, of course, didn't want to hear that. But, we've talked about the art, the world building. These are all things that Scotty Young books do exceptionally well. No matter who he gets on as an artist. Mm-hmm. But Kyle Stram just nails it in this book.
It feels more painterly than I've seen Kyle do before.
I don't know that I've seen this style from Kyle before, but I dig it.
Oh, a lot, yeah.
Yeah, it looks great. It does. It's not really for me.
Right.
So I'm one and done with this one.
Like I said, lack of murder.
Yeah.
Well, it's fine. All of us have our own, genres that we're into. I kind of had that feeling that would be Matt's overall take on it.
Yeah, it's fine. Nothing I disliked about it.
Nothing structurally wrong. It's just not his.
So one of the things I thought was cool, as we talked about last week, some of the previews and stuff said this Bone-esque. They related it to Bone. I think part of why, number one, I think that was advertising just in general because Bone's great, but also because Netflix was supposed to, and there was a lot of hype behind this Bone series that Netflix was going to create that got canceled. Just the way that it talks, the way that Scotty Young and the expressions that Kyle Stram and the mood that Jean-Francis Bellieu creates with his colors. Scotty Young is a big fan of like Mad Magazine, right? Like you can even if you haven't ever listened to an interview with the guy, you can feel that. You can feel like how he's always had this like love for Alfred E. Newman and the usual band of merry bastards or whatever they're called. Like he loves those like that world and that sense of humor. And there's almost this like Calvin and Hobbes relationship between Twig and Splat as they bounce back and forth with each other, and you get a lot of this like Mad Magazine-esque humor. I mean, like literally, there's a poop joke, like Craig said. It's not necessarily lowbrow, but it's still entertaining on a number of levels. Because it doesn't cross that line. Like it's very tongue in cheek. Which I really appreciate. I really appreciate that from Scotty and from Kyle. I think it's a great way to bring humor into this. And like this is a story that I'm going to buy extra copies for and give them to my nieces. Like, this is a story I will give to my nephew. And this is a story I will continue to read.
Yeah.
I think Roger would really like this.
When you say it's an all ages book, it literally is.
Yeah. I think some people see that and they
kid-like, or they think,
that's just a word for, no, this is infantile. I don't feel like this book is infantile.
No.
I feel like it kind of like Shrek, maybe, in a way that it operates on a level that, like, literally, like, your children will be entertained, but there's enough there that as an adult, it's a very rich story. It's a very rich and vibrant story.
Certainly through issue number 1,
yeah.
It is that. And I can't see it not being that all the way through based on what we know of these creators. So
I can't wait to see what kind of action we get with this weird, like, looming robot-esque looking villain-type creature. I mean, we're assuming that it's a villain-type creature that we see previewed for the next issue. Like, that thing looks murdery and scary. So
hard to tell.
Yep, I'm excited. So go pick up Twig number 1. Shout
Absolutely.
out to Scotty and Kyle. Really, really proud. Like, not that they need anything from us, but I think altogether we're all really proud of how successful this is. This book had over 150,000 pre-orders.
Nice.
Just for this issue alone, and that's not even counting, like, the extra variant covers and stuff. Like, that's just straight up just the main.
That's got to make it one of the highest selling first issues of an independent comic, I would think,
in a long time. So, like, and you look, Scotty has a way to turn ideas into money. Like, that's that dude's magical power. So just
I wish I had that power.
Right. Just don't. But can't ask you enough to go get this. Go pick up Twig number 1. So, and you probably already have, judging by the sales. So we will be coming back to this a lot. It's already on my short list for best books of the year. So, based on what I've seen.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, what did you guys read this week? I want to hear something. Tell me about something new.
Yeah. I read a Star Wars book. Isn't that a surprise?
What?
Shocked face.
Well, yeah, right?
Shocked face.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, issue number 1. Of course, it's Marvel Comics. I heard somebody say that this book is only reason why it's being released is because the Obi-Wan Kenobi show's coming out. Well, duh.
You think?
Man, how insightful.
I mean, that is so insightful indeed.
Man, they must have insider knowledge of the industry.
You would never expect an industry that operates in multiple forms of art to support each other within those different multiple forms.
I bet that person makes endless amounts of insightful observations.
I bet they don't.
I hope he didn't pay much money for that advertising degree.
Yeah.
I bet this person doesn't have much.
I'm betting not as well. So this was written by Christopher Cantwell. Ario Andito did the pins and inks, and Carlos Lopez did the colors. Joe Caramagna. Mm-hmm. How do I get stuck with all these random names? Did the lettering, and Phil Noto did the cover. So this picks up right before we are introduced to Obi-Wan Kenobi in the movie, in the Star Wars A New Hope. It's been 20 years since he settled on Tatooine. Mm-hmm. So obviously we know he's not going to die.
Where does this start out at? What's the exact setting on Tatooine?
What's the exact setting?
Yeah, what's the exact setting?
Oh, the Dune Sea?
Yeah, just checking.
He wanted you to say the word Dune.
Do I say Dune funny?
No, it's just Dune. And
you didn't at all.
Dune.
Matt wanted to remind you that Star Wars ripped off Dune.
I mean, that's fine.
That's the Force is just the spice.
Couldn't help it, sir.
They have actual spice in Star Wars.
Oh, I'm on your side on this.
I'm not saying it didn't rip off or borrow heavily from Dune. So I have never said that other than to antagonize Matt. So it starts.
I've never seen Matt smile this hard about anything other than maybe like Conan getting laid.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to my story here. So Obi-Wan is he senses that there's a storm coming, but not rain, because it hasn't rained in the entire 20 years he's lived on Tatooine, other than 4 days after he got there, and that was the last time he saw rain. And so he sits down. He's going to lock himself in, settle in for the storm, the dust storm that's coming, the sandstorm that's coming. And he has a flashback to his youth where he is a young Padawan in the Jedi Temple, as it says, many years ago. Many years ago. This is before he's been taken in by Qui-Gon. He is still under the tutelage of Yoda. They're broken into clans, and one of his friends, this young girl, keeps having visions of her father dying. Does this sound familiar at all?
Yeah. Thematic even.
Yeah, so she keeps having visions of her father dying, and she's going to go save her father, much to Obi-Wan's consternation. He's trying to stop her, telling her she's going to end up in trouble with the Jedi if she leaves, blah, blah, blah. He can't stop her. She jumps off the side of the temple, and he decides, well, the only way I can help her is if I jump off the side of the temple too. So off he goes, chasing her into the depths of Coruscant, where they have some run-ins with the Black Sun Mafia, I guess you would call them, the underground, where his friend, has traded a piece of jewelry for her travel off-world with the Black Sun organization. Well, now that Obi-Wan had to fight his way to her, they now know that they're Jedi, and they've decided that, well, they would be much more profitable to keep these two young Jedi and use them in their organization. Well, as luck would have it, they use their Jedi powers, they break out, they fight away, and ends up she won't come back to the temple with him. He comes back. Yoda gives him a very powerful, stern talking to,
as Yoda's want to do,
and forces him to go sweep the entire temple on his own while he thinks about this fresh wisdom he has obtained. And this is going to be, I'm sure, a little anthology series where you get little insights into Obi-Wan's character growing up and what he's been doing on Tatooine on and off. Is it a deep book? Is there a lot to it? No. Was it a fun little read and you get another story about Obi-Wan and his youth that you didn't know before? Yes. So look at it for what it is, Well,
I think the depth in a book like this comes from the knowledge of what happens in the overall arc of the Star Wars history.
Well, yeah.
So I don't like with this, I don't need a book to go in super deep because you always have the fact that, Vader's looming in the background. You always have the fact that this is a, one or two step removed from the rise of the Empire and stuff.
The crazy thing about it is he had a young friend that essentially had the same visions that Anakin had of his mother.
Yeah, so the Force is just working in weird ways.
Yeah, so to me that was where the story kind of, like you said, thematically hit with what we've already seen, which means, was Obi-Wan going to ever try and stop Anakin from going to save his mom if Anakin had just tried to help, or if Anakin had just went to Obi-Wan with it instead of hiding it? Yeah. Obi-Wan probably would have helped them.
Well, it gives some insight to the decision-making process behind these things that we know later that happen. Because if you watch Star Wars, they're like, oh, well, he made that decision really quickly. Maybe he could have thought about it. Well, but this gives some insight to why he didn't need to. The experience maps out how we make our decisions in real life. This kind of structures that.
Well, and it touches on a young Padawan dealing with fear because, they go through some moments where they're dealing with some, things that would be scary for anybody. Granted, they have the Force as an ally. They can fight it off better than most people, but they're still being held captive by a criminal organization. And their children. And it all happens within one night, but there's also the attachment that he wouldn't let his friend just go and go get Yoda like he should have. He was going to go save her. Obi-Wan was always the good Jedi, but he was also the rebellious good Jedi, which is probably why he shouldn't have ever been training Anakin.
Whoopsies.
Things
Whoopsies, happen. We put the wrong dude in charge.
What could happen? It's no big deal.
What could happen? Just murder and mayhem.
No, that's So,
again, it's a fun little story. There is some themes that tie into Star Wars, where into the overall themes of Star Wars. But I think this is going to be a little anthology series. I expect it to be about 6 issues and done, is what I expect.
Has Cantwell written a Star Wars?
This is the first one he's written that I'm aware of.
Yeah. Okay, very cool. Nice.
So, go pick that up if you're a Star Wars fan. And if you're not, I don't know what to tell you. You're living in the wrong world.
Do we know anybody who doesn't like Star Wars? I mean,
I know some people that could do with or without, and that's fine too.
I mean,
they're wrong, but
I'm not in love with it the way that like you're in love with it. But I'm just like, enjoy it. It brings me a lot of joy.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
I mean, so within the world of Star Wars, it is so large at this point that there's a story in there somewhere for everybody.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, you're on deck, buddy. You got something lighthearted and fun for us?
So I do. To me, anyway.
Right.
This is a surprise book for me. I picked this up. I almost didn't pick this up at all, and my expectations were extremely low. This was surprised me. Mm-hmm. I really liked this book. What this is from Dynamite. This is Red Sitha from the Red Sonja storyline.
Okay.
So this is a character coming out of a current Red Sonja run that the story was Red Sonja was hired to go find this missing little girl, bring her back to, a specific kingdom. So she does so, only to find out when she returns to said kingdom with the little girl, she finds out that this little girl is basically the harbinger of a ancient spirit. So she's been imbued with magical powers as a result. What this cult plans on doing is withdrawing this power from the child, but as a result, the child would be killed. So Red Sonja doesn't cotton to that. So she decides she's going to not turn the child over, and begrudgingly, takes the child on as a tag along, because she can't find and doesn't trust anybody to take care of this child, because frankly the child's too valuable because of this being that's inhabiting her. So this story picks up 10 years in the future, where this child Sitha is now older and on her own, and has obviously been trained by Red Sonja and is picking up to carry on through life like Red Sonja did, as a female barbarian mercenary, for lack of a better word, or just a hired sword in so many ways. The story opens up where she is clumsily smashing through a window because she is on her way to rescue a young girl whose father hired her to go find. They thought she had just ran off with a lover, only to find out when Sitha tracks her down, she is, when she breaks into this castle where she found out this girl is staying, she's actually about to be sacrificed by a group of cultists that are worshiping what's obviously a take on Cthulhu. This god's name is literally a bunch of letters. Right. The unpronounceable is what. Yeah, the unpronounceable. If you know anything about the Lovecraft universe, that means something to you. But what's funny about this is she shows up and she basically walks in on this sacrifice ritual, and the leader says, "Who are you, insignificant female?" I thought that was really funny. He just calls her out on it specifically. And he said, "We are the Brotherhood of the Seven Blades, devoted servants of the unpronounceable. He fills us with dark energy. His thirst for innocent blood cannot be quenched." Her response, right, whatever you say. I'll be taking Misty now, understand? And they immediately let her know, "Oh, you think you can defeat all these acolytes?" And positioned to take her on, well, she lets them know as a child, she was possessed by this being. At some point, this being was later removed, but she retained some level of magic. she lights her sword on fire and positions, and they immediately go, holy shit, this is real magic. We keep sacrificing people and nothing happens. And they immediately let her go with this child, which I just thought that was hilarious.
That is
This is somebody whose LinkedIn resume does not accurately portray their skill set.
Yeah. So
that's pretty great.
Yeah, that cracked me up that they immediately just kowtow to her, and so she leaves with said daughter, and she lets them know that she's not there doing this out of the kindness of her heart. She's been hired, and she's got gambling debts that she's got to cover.
Motivation.
She returns the girl to her father safely, collects her 150 gold pieces, but she needs 3,000 gold pieces to settle with her debtors.
So she does the smart thing and goes and gambles the 150 to try and make it.
That's exactly what she does.
Yes.
She does what people of her ilk do, the irresponsible thing,
right,
and the high risk thing. Immediately gets up several thousand silver pieces, but she's too drunk to
walk away.
She's too drunk to do it responsibly, so
nice. She
picks a fight with a guy minding his own business. And then wakes up with another guy the next morning, but says, this actually works out better than last time because this guy has all his limbs. Yeah. And nice. So the story carries on. What we find out towards the end of the book is she receives a message. She runs back to town to find this guy that sent for her, claiming to be her brother. And she did not know she even had a brother. She's never met her parents. And this guy says, I found our parents and we need to find them. And that's where the story ends.
That seems shady.
Yeah. So, is this true? Is this somebody using her? Yeah. What could it be?
I'm sure it'll be perfectly fine.
So two things.
Nothing bad will come in.
Mm-hmm.
Two things. Number one, Craig, so you had a weird look on your face when Matt said that she didn't cotton to that. Have you never heard that phrase before?
I have.
Okay.
It's just every time I hear it, it makes me laugh.
Well, because, you grew up in SoCal.
It's definitely a southern saying.
Right, yeah. I was just, because I've always heard that too, but I've never actually thought about where that came from. But yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Number two, the second thing, if I'm ever kidnapped by a murder cult, and my family's instant response is, that Caleb must be out hoeing again, I'm going to be pissed. Like, I don't care who you are. Don't default to that. She has a right to be upset with her family.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's a little. Maybe she shouldn't be out hoeing. So
but she was kidnapped by a murder cult.
Or maybe she should.
Also,
she should do what she wants to do.
Why are murder cults never portrayed as better child care providers? I don't know.
Because the name's right. It's right in the name, Caleb.
But to be fair, they're not named a murder cult. They just end up being murder cults. But,
if your altar is a giant bug-looking thing, that's usually a pretty good hint that you're in a cult.
Yeah,
if you have to walk through a door made of human skin, that's usually a pretty good sign.
It could be.
Yeah.
I'm going to reserve my commentary on
bad taste is not a crime.
Cults. Yeah. I like leather doors, maybe not human skin leather doors.
I didn't say leather. I said human
That's
skin.
true. The followers of Set have really cool designs. I could be down with their designs. The whole two snake head.
That's how they get you.
Yeah. There's a guy.
They make very metal looking.
Yeah, man.
There is a guy at my gym who has a giant, who has the set, the two snakes over the circle tattooed on the back of his calf. We're friends now. I immediately went up hey, you, Crom blessed my wedding. That's
wow.
Awesome. So he and I are buddies.
Nice.
We now are going to start our own cult, and that's how that's going to go. So I'm really excited to hear that you like this.
I'm really interested in hearing more about your desire to start a cult.
Exercise-based set cult. Matt, you in? Come on, buddy.
It involves exercise. I'm definitely not in.
But you can just be the snake handler. We'll let you have that job. I am really excited to hear that you like this, though. Dynamite is always hit or miss with their stuff. Especially with the interior art, but the interior art on that does look really cool.
And I'm remiss. I skipped right over the creative team. Jesus, the writers is Mirka Andolfo and Luca Pellegrino. Mm-hmm. The illustrator is Valentina Pinti.
Strong Italian roots.
Yeah,
I'm sure these are just
Mirka Andolfo's on a Red Sonja kick, man. Yeah. This is her second Red Sonja title she's writing.
I think with Mirka Andolfo, now that she's on to writing new material. I'm really enjoying her new material that she's doing versus the stuff that was previously done. It's all been gorgeous. The artwork's absolutely fantastic, but her newer stuff really is.
Well, her handling of plot and storytelling and some of those books were a little. It's grown. It's grown very well. Yeah.
So I'm going to be 1,000% honest. I got this book.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I was half asleep when I was sorting my books, and I thought it said Red Sonja #1. I set it aside to come back to. And then I'm flipping through my other books, and I'm like, wait, here's Red Sonja #8. Something's not right. I was so that's what happens when you sort your books when you're asleep.
Yeah.
You end up kind of skipping over a book because you think that you got like a wrong printing or something.
That's unfortunate.
Nah, I mean, it's sitting there in my pile to read regardless.
Yeah. See, Matt, you just rescued him is what he's saying. You did.
You saved me.
Yep.
I do it all the time.
You're a hero.
I will now have to read Red Sitha.
Worship my actions.
I just want to say,
please.
Her name is what?
Red Sitha?
Yeah. Sith, being a Star Wars thing.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Take turnabout's fair play, man. You got to give him credit where credit's due. All right, so it's my turn. I'm going to try to get through this without crying. So I jumped back in the Wayback Bin this morning because something happened yesterday that we would be remiss as a comic book podcast to not talk about. And anybody who knows me, I bet I would actually argue they're surprised that we haven't spoken about this already. George Perez finished his race day before yesterday. His family announced yesterday that he had passed away. Comfortably under his own terms, surrounded by his loved ones, and that's pretty powerful. We all think about how we want to end our journey in this world, and it's pretty hard pressed to find a better way than ending it. Checking out surrounded by people you love. I didn't know George personally. Surprised, I'm a fan of George's. Right?
Yeah, I never met him myself.
I've gotten to meet him one time for about 5 minutes. Was lucky to have my picture taken. Was able to extol to him how much he meant to me just as a fan. I told him the story that I'm sure he's heard hundreds of thousands of times from fans everywhere. He means the most. He is my favorite comic artist. He means a lot to me.
I mean, so if you read any DC comics, specifically Superman, Wonder Woman, or Teen Titans during the 80s, he had to have some effect on you.
Or for me, it was when I was in the 90s, the late 90s, a child sitting in the floor of Walden Books in the mall in North Little Rock, and I picked up an Avengers book for the first time, and I looked at it, and it was George Perez's art, and I fell in love with it. And it's not in that, like, I have a very visceral, vivid moment, a vivid memory of that moment. Falling, not like I'd looked at comics before, and it's okay. There's pictures on the page, and there's a story here. Okay, cool. Just like a lot of other illustrated books. It's the first time I realized that there was a human being behind a pencil, and it was George Perez.
Yeah. So one thing he did for me that I noticed immediately in his art was hair had texture.
Oh yeah, the curls everywhere.
Yeah, but you didn't really see that before him. Not much, in my opinion. It was this texture that he added to it. So yeah, it was. I mean, when you see his work, you instantly know just by the hair almost that it's Perez.
He drew every single one of them. Yeah. But and we'll get back kind of more to that after I talk about this book. But I wanted to, because George was on my mind, because as a fan, even if it's somebody that you're not tethered to, there's still some semblance of a grieving process. We talked about this when Neil Adams passed away last week. If somebody means a lot to you, but whether they are a film like Martin Scorsese, somebody just they mean a lot to you. You have a relationship with the work that they put out. And so I wanted to go back and read something that I've read. Here recently, I picked up, I say recently, about a year ago, I picked up The Adventures of Superman, the George Perez collection. And I cracked this open and started reading it. And I got to Action Comics number 643. That this was written and drawn by George Perez with a little inking assist by Brett Breeding. This came out in July of 1989, back in the day when comics were 75 cents. The cool thing about this story, preceding the story, Superman had gone off planet. He had to go like out in space and figure some stuff out, and was off world for a while. So you get all of these adventures of Superman in space. He's removed from Metropolis and everything. But in this book, George Perez brings him back. He shows him returning to Earth and to all of these people who, that you didn't forecast it, but all of them see Superman, roll back into the atmosphere and come back into to Metropolis, and he lands on the Daily Planet, and you get this.
Perez write this?
Yes. Yep. George Perez did the story and breakdowns. Britt Breeding did the finished art, so the inking. Bill Oakley did the letters. Glenn Whitmore did the colors on it. So edited by Mark Carlin with assistant editor Jonathan Peterson. You get this just amazingly iconic scene of Superman, in his power pose, hands on, fist on his hips, in front of the Daily Planet with the American flag flapping in the background, and he's just proud to be home. He is happy to be back where his people are, and he's back on his planet. But because of and there's a really great panel, and again, this is '89, so this is after we've gotten Dark Knight Returns has come out. There's this really amazing panel in the bottom right-hand corner of the page where it's Superman. There's color in it, but it's almost like a photo negative in front of a flag where he's all blacked out, and you see the American flag in the background, and it's very, very much a nod to Frank Miller to that scene of Superman, but it's almost the reverse of what Miller did with it, because it's just showing Superman being Superman. So I thought that was cool to see him pay homage to Miller in that some sense, or at least that's the way I interpreted it. So Superman's on the roof. Jimmy Olsen, Perry White, all of them rush up. They're all excited to get back. This is major news. So number one, they're excited to see their friend back, but they're also really, really happy because they're going to get front page. Like, they're going to sell papers, make them a lot of money. It's going to be awesome. Lois Lane, and somebody asked, well, where's Lois Lane and Clark Kent? Why they should be here covering this. This is major news, and Lois is out doing some other stuff. She's on assignment. Clark Kent was just here. He was just around here. So if you're like me and kind of new to this, and you weren't, I couldn't read in 1989, so I wasn't picking this off the shelf. But
I graduated in 1989.
But you're sitting here wondering, it's like, yeah, how did he get away with this? Where was Clark in all this time? Well, there's a little bit of history.
Obviously a life model decoy.
Well, no. So there was this figure who is a shape-changing, sentient automaton-type creature called the Matrix, who actually filled in for him. The Matrix came to Earth, and Superman had to go save their planet. So this is really cool because George Perez actually plays with gender. And again, this is 1989. Like, the concept of non-binary and stuff was not, I think,
fully fleshed.
Yeah, I don't think it was even in the general vernacular. There was very, very binary. But he talks about Matrix, this shape-shifting character, in the non-binary sense. There's a discussion. It's not a he and it's not a she. It's somewhere in between. So I thought that was very cool. That's George in the 80s, like having a deeper understanding, at least in how this goes. But Matrix had been filling in. That's how they got away with it. And so, Superman does his thing. He's trying to get back in the fold, trying to get his bearings and stuff. He really just wants to go home and take a shower. He wants to go see Lois. I mean, the dude's been off the planet for a while. You got to go see his girl. The business needs to be done. But Lois, the reason Lois is not there is because she's actually trapped. She is stuck beneath some rubble in this kind of collapsed building, and because even while Superman was gone, people got up to no good, and surprisingly, it's not Lex Luthor in this time. Lex, actually, there's this moment where Lex is watching Superman fly by his window, and he's like, "You know what? I'm kind of so glad to see that guy back. It was really boring while he was gone." But there are people who are up to no good here, and the machinations of this book. There's this guy named Edgewater who is he's helped build this weird, almost borderline sentient robot to help take over Metropolis, but take over the planet. And so, through burgeoning new technology of car phones in this story, Lois Lane was actually able to contact people at the Daily Planet, and they were able to trace her back and use her as use the line, the car phone, as a homing beacon. So Clark is able to find her trapped underneath this rubble, go to bat and fight this monster who puts up a hell of a fight, I would say, but and save the day. And the Lois has got a broken arm, but they're able to get past that. He's able to defeat this villain and trying to start getting to the bottom of what's going on here. There's this great scene where Jimmy Olsen is in a helicopter with another reporter, and they're trying to get closer to get a better shot and everything, and they get a little bit too close, and so Superman has to jump in and save them, and he has to jump in and cover up this robot with his cape to keep it from blowing up and destroying everybody, destroying Metropolis. This basically would be like a nuclear bomb going off. And so he does. I mean, he is just so quick-witted to do this and to save the day, and do so in a way that doesn't hurt anybody else. That's his own. That's his focus the whole time, and it makes me think about scenes that we've seen in films and stuff like that, where the main criticism is he doesn't try to do that, but he's all the time worried about the singular person, and he really just he wants to get back to being the guy from Smallville. He wants quiet moments with his wife. He wants to do his job. He wants to help people. He doesn't like people that hurt anybody. What you find out is that
I don't like people that hurt people either.
Well, you're right, but that's a very but we say that, but I mean, we make excuses for it every day, right? Like, we understand that sometimes cops have to hurt people to save other people. We understand that sometimes soldiers have to do things to. Superman is an all-powerful being, and he literally has the ability to prevent, like, even those things that we make excuses for. He doesn't want to see it. That's just part of what makes that's part of what makes Clark. And George Perez gets that. He gets that really, really well. And Superman's not a character that George Perez is. When you think about who are the characters that George Perez did? You think about Wonder Woman. You think about the Teen Titans. You don't necessarily think about Superman. When I think about Superman, I think about John Byrne.
Yep.
But he knows this character, and he's got a great feel for it. A little bit of texture behind the scenes. What you find out is that Desaad was pretending to be Darkseid and was working with Edge, and got Edge to make this creature to do some evil stuff because he's Desaad. Now Desaad is freaked out because he was impersonating Darkseid, and he's afraid Darkseid's going to kill him for it. But
hey, when you fuck around, you find out.
I mean, literally. By the end of this is going to lead into the doppelganger story, which brings back Matrix, which actually in this book comes right after this, where Matrix is convinced that they are Superman, and they start fighting Superman because they think Superman's an imposter, and it shows Superman again fighting down this powerful creature, but without hurting them. It's incredible. So. This is a fantastic collection. If you can get your hands on it, it's a great shelf porn. It's a nice little hardcover. Has a bunch of different stories, a bunch of different people. It really does help if you know the canon of Superman. I mean, when they're talking about the different groups, and you're talking about who Edge is and the history of that, by the way, and just Lois Lane and Perry White and all these people. So, and why Superman is off planet, it really helps if you understand it. Luckily, we have Wikipedia. And that we can go to that really helps us out. But it was really nice this morning, getting up in the quiet moments of my house, sitting next to in my chair next to my dogs, reading a George Perez story. It was very cathartic. It was very much like saying goodbye to a friend. I wouldn't be sitting at this table with you guys if it was not for George Perez. And that's not hyperbole. Like I was telling, like I said earlier, I can remember the exact moment where I opened up an Avengers comic book in the late 90s and recognized that there was a person behind this image, and it was George Perez. It's why I love Busiek and Perez's Avengers. George Perez has a heavy-handed influence in my life. I would not be a comics fan if it was not for George Perez, because that's when I started collecting comics. And as a kid, like who fell in love with George Perez's Avengers, led me back to comics after taking a break for a few years as a younger adult. Came back, fell in love. Like, I've got George Perez stuff all over my house. I would not have walked into Kapow Comics if it had not been for that moment where I found George Perez's work. I would not become such good friends with you and Jerry and Sean and Matt and the whole crew. I would not be here today. I would not know our buddies over at 11 O'Clock Comics. I would not know our buddies over at Comic Book Bears. I would not know Wendy. Arnie, Flippa, all that group would not have 80% of the friends that I have today if it was not for George Perez's existence in my life and existence in the world. He is that important and that much of a figure to me as far as my life goes. So definitely expected it after after we've watched him go down. He had cancer. He said, I'm not going to go through treatment. Really can't do anything about it. It's not that type of cancer. So I'm just going to fill my life with joy. My last days with joy. And he did that. He left himself very open to fans. He went to cons. He met people as much as he could. Mark Wade and them got to visit him. Kurt Busiek got to go to his house. Like he brought in all these people that he's worked with over the years to say goodbye, and he just went out on his own terms, and that's just amazing. He is probably one of the most beloved figures I think in comics, just because he is such an advocate for the medium, and you've never seen him without a smile on his face. So our condolences obviously go out to his family and to people who knew him personally, but especially to his fans, man. Like, he loved his fans. His funeral is going to be at MegaCon. Like, they are doing it at a comic convention, surrounded by the people whose lives he touched. And I think that's fitting, and I think that's great. So I didn't want to pass up this opportunity to read a George Perez story and to talk about him and just say once again how much he means to me. I know you guys have your own relationship with him.
Certainly one of the best artists of my lifetime. And you can't flip through George Perez's book without, recognizing his work immediately in it. And by all accounts, just a great person, even outside of comics. I mean, I didn't know him, but that's the accounts. But beyond that, it's the reach that these creators have on people that they don't even realize. That a lot of times gets lost in their persona of who they are. It does. I mean, sometimes who they are doesn't matter as much as how they influence people.
Yeah. The thing is, I think George did know that, and I think he was very aware of that, and I think he put great efforts to make sure that people felt like he appreciated that. Yeah. Truly, truly appreciated it.
I don't think all of them know it or appreciate it, or maybe just don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of humility that they don't know the influence they have on other people, and certainly on the fandom and the comic book culture as a whole. But there are certainly giants, and George Perez was one of them.
Just a legend is too small of a word, at least for me. But I think about his influence. Like, there are three people I think in the post 1970s world who really mapped out the look and feel of comics. George Perez, like we said, I should have said this last week, but Neil Adams is on that list, and John Byrne, especially for mainstream superhero comics. Like, those three people really did umbrella the kind of these pillars of stylistic interpretation of these stories.
Well, if you think about comics from my childhood, you can't think of comics without those three people involved. And you certainly can't think, somebody like Neil Adams, what he did for the industry. I wasn't here last week and didn't get to talk, but what he did for creators in the industry, Kirby specifically, regaining a lot of Kirby's art for him, but also being an advocate for artists being able to keep their work and profit off of their work outside of what they make on a per page level.
Well, I think it says a lot. Adams fighting against his employers,
right?
Yeah,
is pretty. Yeah,
and sometimes when you do that, you get a negative connotation out in the world because of a reputation of being a fighter. Sometimes it's not always the most positive, like what people portray you as. Right. Even though you're doing something positive and you're doing something good, sometimes you're not portrayed in the most positive light.
No, but Neil was smart too. He's a businessman. He turned that into a way to make money off of it.
So those three were definitely giant pillars. You can add a couple more to that list.
Yeah, there's more than three.
But those
Oh,
three...
no, yeah, I wasn't just limited.
those three I certainly think about when I think about comics from my childhood.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys have...
It's a sadder day in a world without those two in it.
Yeah. Do you guys have any favorite George Perez stories? You don't have to name the specific issue if you don't know it or anything, but just in general, some of your favorite George Perez stories.
Maestro.
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed his work on Teen Titans.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just like I talked about earlier, just the texture that he put into everything, including hair, and drawing hair as if it was a natural moving thing and not just something painted on somebody's head.
My heart says the Avengers, my brain says Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
So
it's where you first met him, so it makes sense that Avengers would be.
Yeah.
So again, it's a sad day for comics, it's a sad day for the world. It's sadder to not have these two men in it any longer.
Yeah.
So whatever your personal feelings may be aside, that's the truth of the matter.
I told you guys yesterday, it's almost poetic that they passed so close to each other.
I guess did Perez actually pass yesterday, or they just announced it?
He passed Friday, and then they announced it Saturday.
Which there's something poetic to that coming out on Free Comic Book Day.
Yep, which he loved Free Comic Book Day. So raise a glass to a hero. I mean, to our dearly departed friend, and I will say friend because I felt like he was a friend. He's somebody who is a day-to-day influence on my life. So I'm gonna miss him, but man,
even moving forward, the artists that exist today. No one's standing on their own. Everybody's standing on the shoulders of the people before them.
Yep.
They've all got influences from these past creators.
Yep. It's those memories are happy memories. So I'll try to keep them that way. But as you said, there are creators who are influenced by people like George Perez. There are writers and artists that are influenced by Neil Adams and everybody who came before them, and they do stand on the shoulders of giants. And they are producing and putting out new comics each and every week. And those things come out on Tuesdays and Wednesdays now, and you can get your little fanny up to the local comic book shop and pick up some new ones and check out the work the work that could be your favorite thing. It could, these are creators that could, in 40 years be the guys that you think back on that had this influence on your life, the way that Neil Adams did for Matt and Craig, and the way George Perez did for me. That it's important to keep these things going, and especially to appreciate the work that they're doing. So, as always, we are going to kind of wind this show down by saying what we're going to read this next week, what we're excited about picking up. So I will let you guys.
No, you guys go ahead. I got a couple of choices, so that way.
Matt, you want to go ahead and go, or you want me to go first?
So what I'm going to pick up is the new Death Dealer comic. Frank Frazetta's Death Dealer is a new comic being launched by Mitch Iverson, Stefano Martino, with a cover by Simone Bianchi, which is badass looking, of course.
Oh, dude, I love Simone Bianchi. I don't even need to see the cover. I know it's going to be awesome.
And apparently this is the first in an entire multiverse of Frazetta's, what they're calling most famous creations.
Oh, wow.
So, what other creations will come out of this is going to be interesting. This is from Opus Comics. I've never bought anything from Opus Comics. I've never seen anything from Opus Comics, but whatever they've made a decision to get into the Frank Frazetta business, which is it's easy money.
So it's a smart decision. I'm going to be throwing my money at it.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to this. It's, there's been a few Death Dealer Frank Frazetta creation adaptations throughout the years, but it has been a minute, as the kids would say.
Yeah, the last one was early 2000s.
The Image Run.
Image Run where they used his art and then supplemented it with other people's art to
they used his covers.
Yeah.
Mine is real simple. Jurassic League #1 comes out this next week. This is a concept created by the great Daniel Warren Johnson. It is the Justice League, but dinosaurs. What about the Justice League, but make it dinosaurs? Done by Daniel Warren Johnson. And so I'm all on board. It's going to be weird, quirky, fun, kinetic, energetic, and wild. So check that out.
That's why I let you go first.
Nice.
So I'm going to pick one by Boom Studios, and the title is Grim.
This was my number 2.
I thought this was going to be your number 1.
I had a backup.
This is by one of our new favorites, and that's Stephanie Phillips and Flaviana, who I'm not familiar with. This is Jessica Harrow is dead, but her journey has only just begun. Discover the world of the afterlife, where Jessica has been recruited as a Reaper. So, she's tasked with ferrying countless souls to their final destination.
Well, now,
so
Blue Oyster Cult's going to be in my head for the rest of the day, so that's a thing that's going to
good
happen.
for you.
I love Blue. Yeah, don't fear the Reaper.
I love that band. It's a fantastic band. Well, all right, good stuff all around. I am looking very much forward to it. Hopefully, you will get yourselves up to a comic book shop near you and pick it up, or pick it up digitally. However you do it, it doesn't matter as long as you do it the legal way. Because if you don't, it's bad. You're a bad person. Don't steal.
So the great thing is, I'm actually picking up all 3 of our suggested
nice
this week.
Look at you, just diving in with both hands. Excited.
I'm excited for all 3 of our books.
Oh, dude, yeah. There's some. There was like 5 or 6 books coming out this next week that I could have picked up and been happy with. So,
which is different than the past couple of weeks, where it's been like a little bit of a struggle bus.
Yeah,
there's a lot coming out this week.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard on the wallet too.
Yeah,
but
that's okay.
We hope you have fun with the books you pick up, and we hope you have had fun listening to us just talk back and forth about the different stuff. It's been a busy week, man. There's been a lot. Free Comic Book Day, George Perez, just everything going on. Weird conversations about Matt's deep instilled hatred of the goth kids. Lots of weird stuff.
I thought you were going to say his deep and instilled hatred of Star Wars for copying.
See, I don't think he
not at all. No, not at all. I'm a Star Wars fan.
He needs everybody to know that Star Wars is the silver medal in the Mad Olympics. That's what it is. So do us a solid. If however you get this podcast, however you got it, if it gives you the ability or the opportunity to leave a rating and review, throw us a couple stars in there. Be honest. Give us what you're worth. Not only does it help us know what we're doing. Hopefully you give us 5 if there's 5. But it also helps the algorithm ping us to other people who enjoy similar podcasts about comics and pop culture. We would really appreciate that. It would mean a lot. If you're also somebody who frequents any type of social media, be that Facebook or be that. I can't say that one anymore. Instagram.
He actually hasn't taken control, and it's debatable whether he will get control.
Maybe he'll come back. Maybe we'll come back. But we are at SFSG Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. You can shoot us an email at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. If I owe you an email, I will be getting back to you this next week now that I'm settled and not doing school anymore. And we will be setting something up with a couple of people who have made a comic that we're going to talk about pretty soon. That's kind of exciting. For any other things we got, you guys got any last minute announcements?
Nope.
Forever hold your peace, seek your peace.
Or at least till next Sunday.
Yeah. All right. Well, in that case, go forward and love some comics.
R.I.P. George Perez.
Yes, sir.